Hey folks, it's Tom, your frugal prepper. I'm out here working on the old car. So, this is the 99 Pontiac Grand Am with the 2.4. It's been a decent car. Generally runs good, but it's getting right around 95,000 miles on it now. It's time for some stuff that you would expect to go wrong. One was this motor mount, and it was clear down in the bottom there. It was kind of a pain to get to and get all the bolts lined back up to put it back in. I had to keep kind of jacking the motor back and forth and everything, but you really shouldn't be able to move this much with your hands. And you can see, let me take it in here where I can see the phone. There is some splits in it, and the rubber's just collapsed in it. And what it was doing is when you were in drive, like at a stoplight, it would just vibrate real bad. And when you would put it in park, like on a hill going backward, where it was pulling the car backwards, it would vibrate real bad too. So, this goes in a bracket. It's like pressed in. And luckily I have a friend in the business, and he was going to help me do it. And I got over there to the shop where he works, and he was out. He's torn his rotator cuff and is having some problems. But the owner let one of the other guys there help me get that pressed in, because if you buy it with the bracket, it's like $80, or this is $20. So that saved me some money, and I asked him, and he didn't want any money for it. I help them fix their computers sometimes, so they kind of help me out from time to time, and take them over some coffee or something. So now I'm going ahead and I'm doing the struts, and this strut right here, the bearing plate in the top of it was bad, and it was popping when you were turning the wheels, and it would kind of hang up sometimes while you were driving, and then the car would be wanting to pull into the other lane, so I looked, you can get a new strut and reuse the spring, but by the time you buy the bearing plate and all the little plastic covers and stuff, and that cover's bad, you're going to have almost as much in it to reuse the spring. And then you got I don't have the professional tool to do it, so you have to get one of those Lona tool spring compressors, and one of those springs let go, you can lose fingers or half your face or whatever. So I just decided I'd buy them complete. So I got the Monroe Econo line complete strut assembly in the boxes there, and I got this one out, and this is a good time to see if there's any play in the ball joints, and this one's fine. I still have to take the other side apart yet. It's really an easy job. You take a couple bolts loose, get the brake caliper out of the way, take it off, and 3 bolts up at the top, and it comes right out of there. So the complete strut assemblies were like $150 a piece. Then I went to Pet Boys, and if you order it online, you got 25% off versus walking in the store, but you can still pick it up at the store. I thought, great. So I selected the Columbus store, because there's other things in Columbus like Micro Center, and ordered it. And then when I got over to Columbus, they had sent it to the Trotwood store, which is Columbus is an hour and a half, where I was at in Columbus, an hour and a half in one direction from where I live. Trotwood's like an hour and a half in the other direction, or maybe an hour. So they're like, no, there's no way we can transfer it or anything. So we get back in the car, and we drive all the way back past our exit, an hour in the other direction, to get to the Trotwood Pet Boys. And they have them. I get up to the front, and they're like, oh, you have to sign for it. I'm like, well, I paid online, why do I have to sign the little debit tablet thing? And they're like, well, we don't process it until you pick it up. So they didn't tell me that at the Columbus store, but I could have that would have went back in stock after 24 hours if nobody picked it up. It wouldn't have been charged to my card. I could have just bought them in Columbus. That kind of annoyed me. because they had them there, but I thought I'd already paid for these. Oh. But I got to spend a nice long drive with the family, but it saved me about 80 bucks. They have some cheap ones on eBay where you get like 2 complete strut assemblies for $89 free shipping, but I wanted to do something decent. So your struts have way too much to do with your stopping distance and your steerability and all that. It's a safety issue. I want something that meets OE specifications and is going to work well for me on that. That's a part I'm not going to cheap out on. But you know me, I don't have a problem using cheap gaskets and other kinds of things from China off of eBay. But brakes, suspension, those are things I don't really want to cheap out on because you might save $100, but you might die. Your stopping distance might be 6 inches more, but there's times when you might need to slow down and steer around something where that 6 inches makes all the difference between living and dying. Especially as much as I drive in crazy rush hour traffic these days going to my new job. So anyway, I'll kind of show you. You basically take these 3 bolts out of the top, but I do that afterwards. There's 2 big bolts right here. You take those loose. Then you tap these bolts out. Take your brake caliper off to give you clearance from the brake line right here. And take those bolts in the top out, and this will all drop out. And I'll kind of show you. Can't do it one-handed, but I'll just kind of start and stop the video. So I got my big breaker bar on there, and we'll just break that bolt loose like so, and then we'll try to get a spot on this one. There we go, and we'll break it loose. I can get the rest of that with my 1/2-inch drive socket now. So now we're just gonna take these the rest of the way loose, and I sprayed these down with Croyle. I should remember the name of his channel. He's won several things from me. He's a mechanic, and I can't remember right now. Too much going on, but he's the one who turned me on to Croyle. That stuff's amazing for breaking loose rusty old bolts. I mean, these were rusty, and I'm just turning them out there by hand after letting them soak for a few minutes with some Croyle. You can see how I just broke all that crud up that was on there too. It's amazing stuff. It's expensive though, but it don't take much. Okay, so now all we have to do is I take and I thread the nuts back on these just a little to hammer on them, because I don't want to booger up the threads. And I just take a big hammer and knock them loose like so. And then we'll take the nuts back off, and we'll pull these bolts out in a minute. But first I'm going to take off this brake caliper. Okay, for the brake caliper, I already broke these loose off camera, but there's just 2 bolts, one on the top and the bottom, and we just take those out. And then we'll remove the caliper. Let me get my ratchet here. And there's one right. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's right back there. Now, sometimes on these cars, and I don't know, my mom's got a Grand Am, or no, this is a Grand Am. She's got the Grand Prix, and the brakes are a little different on it. Hang on, I'll show you here in a minute. I just gotta get this thing loose. Get this bolt out. It's not wanting to come out. But anyway, you see there's a little flat spot right here. First time I did brakes on this, I had to get my mechanic friend to help me because I could not get the bolts loose. But you actually take a wrench and put it right here and then turn that on the inside and it breaks it loose. Just so you know, if you're doing brakes on the Grand Am or something and you can't get that bolt loose, that's what you do. Alright, I'm going to pause this and get this caliper on off of here. So to get this loose, just take a screwdriver and pry that loose. I don't normally like to let it hang by the brake line like that, but I kind of have to make clearance for the strut, and I don't let it like drop too hard or whatever, because you could mess up this brake line and then you got to replace that and bleed the brakes and everything. So this is a good time to check brake pads. These have plenty of meat left on them. They are eating up the rotor pretty good because they're semi-metallics and it's a cheap rotor. I had that turn last time I replaced these about 8 months ago. But yeah, there's still plenty left there for stopping, so I'm okay with that. And then once we get this out, I'll show you kind of how I'm going to check the ball joint. It's how I'm doing it. I don't know if it's the right way or not, but it's what I'm doing. So what I do is I put my ratchet handle in this bolt hole and then just tap on the end of it with a hammer, and that'll knock these bolts the rest of the way out, and then that bottom of that strut will be loose. Okay, so those bolts are out. They're knocked out, and then this whole thing comes off of here now. And, you know, try not to tear up your CV joint boot if you can help it. It looks like that one's okay. I didn't tear it. And then once this is out of here, what I'll do is take this whole thing and shake it every direction, pull on it, twist it. And if you feel like any movement or anything in there, then the ball joint that's down here on the bottom, right here, there's like 3 bolts or whatever, or something, or those rivets, I don't know, 3 things that hold that in. And then if that's moving at all, then this would be a good time to replace your ball joint. But really, it feels okay so far, but I'll mess with it and see once I get the strut out. So now we're ready to take those 3 bolts out in the top. Okay, so for these you just have 3. You have a bolt and 2 nuts, and these are all 13 millimeter. Don't take this big bolt out here. That's what's holding the top of the strut together. If you do that, you're going to be sorry, because it's going to release that big mean spring that we were talking about. And this last one's what's going to actually probably let it drop down. Oh, darn it. I dropped a bolt down in there now. I'm going to have to go looking for that. Or a nut, I should say. I got some spare metric nuts if I need them. I keep some in my toolbox. Okay, so that strut's loose now. And it's just a matter of grabbing it and pulling it out. And looky there. It's got a broken spring. See right there? That's been a big part of the problem. I bet that bearing plate wasn't really even the issue over there. That spring broke. It's a good thing I bought a whole assembly. I could never use that spring. There's my helper with no shoes on.
I know, I just wanted...
No shoes and no coat. It's 42 degrees out here. You can't be out here without shoes and a coat. You're just getting overstrapped up, mister.
Okay.
You're still on antibiotics. Go get dressed. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll just move this thing around, shake it. That's just the rotor moving a little. That's not play. I'm not feeling any play in that ball joint at all, so that ball joint's fine. So I'll go ahead and put the new struts in now. There it is, one nice shiny new Monroe complete strut assembly. And they give you new bolts and new bolt and 2 new nuts. So I'll have to find the one I dropped down in there. Yay! So now it's just a matter of putting that new one in there and hooking everything back up the way I took it apart. Alright, well, I got my 3 new top bolts in there. They changed one of the 2 nuts are still 13 millimeter and the bolt is now 10 millimeter, but oh well. They put a nice little sticker over that bolt telling you not to take it out because you kill yourself. So I just left it on there. It's not hurting nothing. Now we'll put the bottom part back together. Okay, so the shock's back in there. Hammered the bolts through and just tightened those as tight as I could get them with the breaker bar. Or I said shock, I think it's a strut, but whatever. And the brake pads fell out of this, and I thought I'd show you this just so if you're doing one of these, you'll know. But there is an inner and an outer brake pad on these. A lot of cars are the same. And the one with the shorter top tab goes towards the outside of the vehicle. The one with the longer tab goes to the inside. And they will go in there the wrong way if you work on it hard enough. And you'll go through a set of brake pads in 10,000 miles. And only one side will be worn, and you'll be wondering what's going on. Asking me how I know that. Alright, so that side is all done and put back together. There's a pretty little blue strut in there. Calipers back on, tightened up. So I won't bore you with doing the other side. Let's go ahead and end the video here. But that's how you do a strut. It's honest to God the first time I've ever put struts in a car. I've just never had to in any of my vehicles. So a lot easier than I thought it'd be. And I'm glad that I went ahead and did it with that broken spring. Took that bad boy out. That's it's been trying to turn up in that strut tower, and that's what's been hanging up and rubbing. You can see where it's been rubbing too. That's what's been hanging up my steering and making it all wonky. So, alright, I'll talk to y'all later. This is Tom, your frugal prepper.